Welcome back. I'm still talking to Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International editor, and also a Reform councillor in North Lincolnshire, Oliver Freeston. We're talking about freedom of speech. Listen, this is what worries me. What's going on in this country now? The sort of thing that happened to you, Oliver. It's sort of Orwellian. And we have a Labour government, we have a left-leaning culture that I think wants to take the power away from the people by limiting our language. You know, it literally was in 1984. If you take away the words to express what the government doesn't want, we won't be able to express it. We are weakened. I mean, on a small level, yesterday I think it emerged that the NHS is banning the word obese, having already banned the word fat, because that's offensive to people. So they come up with a euphemism, obese, and then here we are 10 years on. The euphemism is so associated with fat that they're now banning the euphemism. How do doctors treat fat people, fatsos, see the rules I'm breaking here, if they're not allowed to say fat or obese? So that is, I think, medically dangerous. Then we have a process going on now, administered by the great Angela Rayner, where we already have, in my view, an unnecessary definition of Islamophobia, which shouldn't even be a word, I don't think, but they're redefining it again. So there'll be a new definition which will reduce what we will be allowed to say legally about Islam, about the Muslim community, our views on whether or not women should wear burqas, and so on and so forth. It will reduce our linguistic ability to discuss issues that are important to this country. You're a young guy, Oliver. Do you sense that you're growing up in a worrying culture in terms of what I've just been describing?
And the problem is you've got people of an older generation who are getting offended by hurty words. But moreover, my words weren't hurty. The bigger problem is the Tories. You said about Labour. This is the Tories as well. Two Tory councillors came up to me after the meeting, after not saying anything in the meeting, and they said, "Oh, you were brave to say that." I said, "Oh, do you not agree with the comments?" "Oh, no, we agree 100%, but you can't say things like that anymore." That is what has got us into this mess. We've got generation after generation of politicians who have been afraid to speak sense, and now look at us. We're in a position where you can't say things that are actually for the benefit of people. And just going back to my original point on the mental health, how many people do you think are suffering because they've been stigmatized and they've got genuine mental health problems and really do need help, because they don't want to call out, because they don't want to be labelled as, anxiety and depressed, because it's just lost its meaning. People don't take any notice of it anymore.
I believe, Isabel, that there's something like 9 million working age people in this country who don't work, have been signed off or just don't work. So Oliver's quite right. We have a massive crisis here, and Liz Kendall, the Work and Pension Secretary, is under enormous pressure to reduce our just astronomical and rising welfare bill. But she can't do it because of what Oliver's talking about, because as soon as somebody phones up and says, I'm 22 years old, can I not work for the rest of my life, please, because I'm having suicidal thoughts? Yeah, all right, yeah, okay, you're all right, off you go. Doctors, we know, just write the notes rather than get involved. So there's a massive problem here. But to go to my general point, Isabel, this restriction on language, oh, you can't say that, you can't say that. As I say, what Oliver said at that meeting was a modicum of reasonableness. And yet he's told you can't say that. It's very worrying the way more and more we get told you can't say that, you can't say that, you can't say that. And it's usually because, oh, why can't I say that? Oh, because it's offensive. Well, my response to that is, so what? It's not against the law to be offensive.
Yeah, I mean, the more people tell me I can't say things, the more I want to say them. I spent an hour...
That's why I have you on the show.
I spent an hour last night talking to somebody who deals exactly with this, doing the assessments for so-called PIP payments, which is up to £1,000 a month, so-called personal... personal empowerment payments or something like that. It's supposed to be money to help people who are genuinely disabled have more control over their lives. And he told me in great deal exactly how the system works or doesn't work. And he was exasperated that he doesn't ever actually get to see these people who he's assessing over the phone. You know, they can claim anything they like, really. They have to produce various bits of evidence. But he said, if I could just see these people face to face, I'd know within a nanosecond whether they really needed these allowances or not. But doing it over the phone is just no substitute for that.
Yeah.
And he further said that, get this, some 60% of the cases that he's dealing with, these are the claims for this PIP benefit, £1,000 a month, are mental health claims.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell? How has this happened? And he said it's just basically impossible to know how to judge it. You know, people say that they can't get out of bed, they can't eat, you know. He does his very best to probe it, as they call it in the terminology, but it's very difficult.
And there are buzzwords that you can use, and nobody's saying that everybody is yeah, but nobody's saying that everybody's lying. But let me tell you, quite a few of them are. You say suicidal thoughts, yet you're at home and dry. And I was just wondering, Oliver, whether I'd just gone a bit over the top, as I'm wont to do in those figures, but I've just looked it up. In December 2024, so not that long ago, so just, well, 2 months ago, there were 9,337,000 people aged between 16 and 64, in other words, working age people, who are not working, economically inactive. And so when you made that point in your council meeting, it's a vital point to be made. If we don't weed out the people who are lying to get a lifetime of benefits, this nation literally is going to go bankrupt. These are massive, massive, unsustainable figures, and that's why Liz Kendall is under such pressure. She is the cabinet minister who is having the hardest time right now, being lent on left, right and centre, but she has got a hell of a mountain to climb, right?
Well, if Isabel was aghast at the figures she was told by the person she interviewed at the PIP assessment, did you know now that to get a blue badge, mental health, anxiety is now a qualifying criteria? And when I saw that, I was shocked. You tell me how having anxiety or depression means you should be eligible for a blue badge. The world has gone crazy.
Well, I mean, next thing we hear, you'll also be eligible for a Motability car, you know, because you've mental health problems. And again, I wish that was just fantasy, crazy fiction, but, you know, I wouldn't be that surprised if that becomes a reality or if it isn't already.
You know, what this all comes down to is, again, it's this sort of new be kind tyranny where you're not allowed to sort of call a spade or to tell somebody, you know, read them the Riot Act, you know. So it'd be fun, wouldn't it, if a few doctors would say, don't come in here telling me you're suicidally depressed. I can see you're lying. You've still got your football boots on. Get out of here and get a job. But they can't do that. And this is the problem. We have lost the ability to address reality with the language that is required, because that's offensive. You can't say that. Listen, Oliver, I'm going to have to go now, but it's great to have you on the show, and we got your number, and I think we might have you back if you're agreeable to that. Would you come back on the show?
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Thank you very much. Oliver Freeston there. He's a Reform councillor in North Lincolnshire. What do you think about what he's saying?